contemplate them through the perceptible symbols which have grown around them. We must strip these off in order to see them in themselves, naked and pure. If we talk about a fountain of life, we see a fountain. That's not what we're seeing. We're seeing something flowing into itself, looking upon it as standing of its own nature, having a certain power, one simple power, simple, self-moving, self-active, never leaving itself. See? If you just describe it the way in which it functions, see? Function is the key. Function, understand how it functions, then you can drop the literalness away. Well, he has a couple of very fine examples, and we should use them. When looking at God viewed from the outside, he says, you know what you can do when you look at all the number of incredible monstrous shapes they contain of God from the outside. Right? The transcendent generation of God as the stomach of God generating corporeally. Or the logos flowing out into air from a man's heart, which vomits it out. Spirit breathed out of the mouth, and God bearing bosoms, embracing the Son of God. He says, you know what? He says, strip these images of the associations you have around them. See how they function. You can see their similarity. You can then reach a level of simile, and you can understand them. So let's do a couple. I missed one. I got a good one here. All right. Okay. Here. And what could anyone say about the risque titillations befitting a prostitute in the Song of Solomon, and all other sacred compositions that attempt to render the form of God by putting forward and multiplying the visible shapes of things hidden, the divisions of beings one and undivided, right, of shapes and many forms of things, shapeless and formless. Now his comment. With regard to these, if anyone is able fittingly to see and distinguish their inner meaning, he'll discover that they're all mystic things. They have a divine form, and they're filled with theological light. Therefore, let us believe that the visible appearance of these things were modeled. Right? Therefore, you know what we should do? We should see them as something that protects inexpressible and indivisible knowledge from the multitudes. If we can do that, then we're ready to pass in simplicity of mind and with an aptitude for the faculty of contemplation to the simple, supernatural, and more elevated truth behind the symbols. That's our goal. Well, then. Did I... Okay. I was really looking for this really fine expression he has. Okay, I don't want to go there. Here it is, see, on page 155, 3 lines from the top. It's right, it was right. not only that the Holy of Holies should be preserved in their purity from the multitude, from the many, but also that divine knowledge should illuminate human life in both the undivided and divided, in a way suitable to itself. I was going to talk about two parts of the soul, the parts that is passive and the part that is not. Let the impassive part of the soul define the simple, the more inward meanings of these godlike images. Now, the passive part should naturally serve and strive towards these divine things through the shapes and the symbols. But for those who have heard clear theological teachings, without such coverings that shape them, then you'll be able to see theology. Now let's see whether we can, I'm going to quickly jump to get one. He's going to use the idea of light. I'm on page 156. He's going to talk about light on three levels. Transcendent light and intelligible things, and in a word, things divine, are depicted in numberless symbols. As for example, God is said to be fire. The intelligible oracles of God are said to be consumed in fire. Even the godlike orders of the intelligible and intelligent angels are depicted in various shapes and forms and fiery configurations. The image of fire itself is understood in one way when attributed to God, beyond knowing, and another way when attributed to the intelligibles, and yet another way when you're talking about angels. In the first, you're talking about causes. In the second, you're talking about substance. In the third, you're talking about the idea of participation. Ooh. New. What is that? Right? All right, first we have to see things in causes. Then we have to see things in the substance, what they have as a substance. And third, we have to see things as participating. Now, participating is nothing other than becoming like the thing you're becoming like the ideal you already have. We all have ideals. We all have images. And in one way or the other, we become like the ideal that we have. The more this becomes truly an ideal, you're then doing what? You're becoming more like the ideal you have, more ideally. That's participation. See? We participate all the time. There's not a fancy notion. We have an idea of ourselves, and in one way or the other, even if we comb our hair one way or the other, we're trying to match it against some idea that we have of ourselves. So to that degree, we are crafting ourselves like the ideal we have of ourselves. The greater the ideal, the more you'll become like that ideal. That's participating. See, the more you become like the ideal, the more you're participating in the ideal, the more you become like it, because that's participation. The major philosophical idea of Greek philosophy is inserted here in 2 lines.